I was halfway through slicing peaches when she said it. Grandma, you don't get it. You're just old. No malice. Just that breezy, thoughtless pity. Like I was a landline in a wireless world. I wiped my hands. Pushed the bowl aside. She went back to her laptop, never looking up. She used to hold my hand when crossing the street. Now she won't even meet my eyes. That's fine. A month later, she walked into her dream job and saw my name on the deed. They say silence grows louder with age. I never believed it until the house got too quiet to blame on anyone else. Most mornings, I'd hum while boiling the kettle. 2 cups. One for me. One just in case. Habit's a funny thing. Even after she moved into her apartment downtown, I still set the second mug. Not because I thought she'd walk in. Because I wanted to remember how it felt when she did. I filled my time with small things. Crossword puzzles in ink. Peeling peaches for cobbler. She always loved it cold from the fridge. Crocheting blankets that nobody asked for, but I made anyway. I even mended her old pillowcase once, though she'd long swapped it for something minimal and clean. She used to call me her safe place. Her words. Not mine. Now she just called when she needed a cosigner. I don't blame her. Grief makes children out of us all. And she was barely 8 when her mama died. She clung to me like a second shadow back then. Wouldn't even go to school without my scarf tucked in her backpack. Some nights she still woke screaming. I'd rub her back in slow circles. Sing that old lullaby from my grandmother. The one she later told her therapist she hated. Still, I never missed a parent-teacher night. Never bought myself new boots so she could go to art camp. Sold my gold bracelet to help with her design degree. She never knew. Didn't need to. That's what love is: unseen, unpaid, unwavering. When she moved into that glossy loft with glass walls and mood lighting, I smiled. Told her I was proud. Meant it too. She was working at a digital branding agency. Lots of buzzwords and hashtags, but she seemed happy. Still came by on Sundays. At first, she'd bring her laptop sometimes, answer emails while I stirred stew. I didn't mind. She was busy. That meant she was thriving. We'd sit on the back porch with iced tea and shortbread. She'd tell me about her clients, her bosses, her big dreams of starting her own agency. Said one day she'd lease that old corner building on 3rd Street. Turn it into a storytelling lab with soul. I remember thinking the phrase was silly, but her eyes lit up when she said it. So I never told her that. I even clipped out the listing from the paper. Tucked it behind my recipe cards just in case. Then the visits got shorter. Texts got fewer. I'm slammed this week, Gran. Running late, rain check? She didn't mean anything by it. That's what I told myself. Told my neighbor June too, when she asked if Emily was doing okay. She's just busy, I said, pouring lemonade. Kids her age have to hustle now. June smiled that soft, pitying smile. Didn't say what I knew she was thinking. Truth is, I wasn't unhappy. Just slowly disappearing from the frame. Still standing in the picture, but blurred out. One Sunday, I cooked roast chicken, her favorite. She canceled last minute. I wrapped the plate. Put it in the fridge next to last week's soup. Didn't throw it out till Wednesday. My phone rang that night. Spam caller. No voicemails. I walked into the living room, sat in my chair, and watched the streetlights flicker on. For the first time in a long while, I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't need noise. I let the silence fill the room like water in a glass. Took a breath. Let it out slow. I was never truly lonely. Just quietly replaced. And even then, I wasn't angry. Not yet. Because part of you always believes love will circle back. Even if it takes the long way home. That night I pulled the envelope out from behind the recipe box. The listing still folded sharp, ink slightly faded. The corner building on 3rd. Dusty windows, peeling paint, bones full of promise. Emily's dream. The one she once whispered to me like a secret. Someday, Gran. I'll make stories come alive there. I ran my thumb across the paper edge. Careful. Slow. Didn't open it. Just held it. And for a while. That was enough. Because I believed she still saw me. Somewhere beneath the years. The white hair. The quiet. I believed I still mattered. Even if I didn't make the roster anymore. That belief? It stayed with me until the day she said it out loud. Not cruel. Not shouting. Just simple. Dismissive. You're just old. That's when everything I gave stopped feeling like love and started feeling like erasure. But not yet. Not quite. The storm hadn't broken. Not then. But the clouds were rolling in. And I was learning to stop waiting for shelter. I was learning to build my own. It wasn't a dramatic scene. No slammed doors. No shouting match. Just a sentence, muffled through a hallway, wrapped in laughter not meant for me. I was refilling the sugar jar when I heard her. Emily. In the guest room. On a Zoom call. She didn't know I was home. Didn't hear my footsteps on the carpet. I froze. She's sweet, but she doesn't get it. I mean, she's just old, you know? Sweet and stubborn and like library old. Then laughter. Hers. And someone else's. A man maybe. Another voice, young and fast, like hers. Barely online, she added. They laughed again. I stood there, spoon in hand. Sugar spilled across the counter like snow. It was the way she said it. Like I was a genre that didn't sell anymore. Like I was a paperback nobody opened. I didn't cry. Didn't move. Just let the silence wrap around me. Held my breath in it. Listened to the murmur of her voice behind the door. Then I turned. Walked into the kitchen. Sat down. My tea had gone cold. I stared out the window. Watched a neighbor's dog chase wind. Listened to the hum of the fridge. The room was silent. But everything inside me was screaming. It's strange how fast something breaks. Not with a bang. Just a shift. A weight you didn't realize you were carrying finally slipping off one side. She used to leave me notes. Back by dinner, love you. Now she left cups in the sink. That afternoon, I cleaned like I was trying to find a version of myself she might remember. Washed the towels. Straightened the cushions. Swept under the rug, though nothing was there. Then I opened the drawer by the stove. Pulled out that envelope. The one with the listing. Still folded. Edges curling now. Print faded but legible. 1613, 3rd Street. Prime Creative Real Estate. 2 stories. Original woodwork. Skylight in the back room. I had printed it 6 months ago after Emily's big speech about storytelling space. She had so many ideas, communal energy, warm branding, design with heart. I didn't understand half of it. But I understood her. Her voice when she talked about it. The way her eyes danced with fire she hadn't shown since her mom's funeral. So I printed the listing. Checked my accounts. Even spoke to the bank. They laughed kindly. Said it was possible, but tight. I smiled and left. Didn't tell Emily. I was going to surprise her. Help her start it. Give her the building on her 27th birthday. Put the papers inside a peach cobbler. But now I held it like a stranger might. Like it belonged to someone else. And something inside me clicked. Not with anger. Just clarity. I wasn't in her future. I was her backstory. A sentimental footnote. A sepia filter. A memory. Later that evening, she came into the kitchen. Still smiling from her call. Hey Gran, she said, grabbing her charger. That chicken from yesterday still good? I nodded. She didn't notice my hands were shaking. She never saw the envelope, still warm from my palms, now tucked back under the recipe cards. She didn't ask how I was. Didn't notice the silence had teeth now. I watched her plate the food. Watched her sit on the couch with her laptop open, half listening to a podcast. She used to sit next to me. Used to ask for stories about her mother. Used to braid my thinning hair and say, "You're magic, Gran." Now she barely looked at me. I stood in the doorway. Looked at her like I used to look at thunderstorms. With awe. And the faint ache of something untouchable. She laughed at something on her phone. The glow lit up her face. She didn't see me watching. I turned off the hallway light. Walked to my room. Closed the door. That night I didn't sleep. I just listened. To every footstep. Every sigh. Every drawer opening and closing. She left early the next morning. Didn't say goodbye. She texted me at noon. Love you. Thanks for the chicken. I stared at the screen. Then at the folded paper I'd placed on my bedside table. 3rd Street. Still unsold. Still possible. But not for her. Not anymore. Not the way she saw me. Not after what I heard. You can only give so much before it becomes self-erasure. And I had erased enough of myself for one lifetime. That moment, that overheard sentence, it didn't break me. It unmuted me. It didn't start with that call. It started long before. Soft things. Easy to excuse. Like splinters you don't feel until they fester. The first was the birthday card. Store-bought. Plain. No note inside, just love M. She used to draw me pictures. Write little poems. One year she wrote, "If love was a person, it would be you." This year, the envelope wasn't even sealed. Then came the coffee mug. She brought it over from some design expo, sleek white with a crooked font. Vintage soul, outdated mind. She laughed when she gave it to me. Said, "You'll get it, Gran. It's ironic." I smiled. Put it on the top shelf. Haven't touched it since. Another time, she canceled dinner. Said she had a work event. But I saw her post a photo that night. A rooftop wine tasting. Caption, "Surrounded by visionaries." I liked the post. She never liked mine back. When I gave her a handmade scarf, cream-colored soft wool, she said, "Thanks, but I already have like 5 scarves." She left it behind on the coat rack. Still there. Still folded. Still waiting. But the worst hurts don't come from words. They come from tone. One afternoon, she was showing me her new branding website. I asked a question, something about the interface. She chuckled. Softly. Gently. Like I was a toddler asking where the moon goes at night. Patted my hand and said, It's okay, Gran. It's a little out of your lane." Out of my lane. I ran a library for 32 years. Cataloged thousands of books. Wrote grants, hosted readings, helped children learn to hold words like treasure. Now I was out of my lane. I said nothing. Just nodded. Pushed her laptop a little closer, so I could see better. The next week she sent me an e-veet. Not a phone call. Not a message. An e-veet. To her Vision Circle brunch. It had terms like thought leaders and growth mindset and authentic synergy. And at the bottom, keynote by Emily Hargrove, creative director, Echo Agency. My name was never mentioned. Not even in the footnotes. She introduced me that day to someone as my grandmother, Margaret. She's from a different world. A different world. I just smiled. Sipped my mimosa. Listened to her speech about connection, legacy, and storytelling. The irony didn't even sting by then. It just settled dull and low in my chest. I excused all of it. The tone, the timing, the absence. Because she was building something. Because I loved her. Because sometimes, the people we raise forget who raised them. One night, I was cleaning out the closet when I found it. A faded old shoebox. Inside, photos of Emily as a little girl. One where she's holding a puppet I made her. She called it Lady Moon. Said it protected her from bad dreams. I smiled at the memory, then looked up and saw the same puppet, stuffed into a bag marked donate. She had thrown it out. Not to be cruel. She was decluttering. Leveling up her space. It didn't align anymore. Still, I picked it up. Brushed off the dust. Set it on my shelf. She hadn't asked for it. Hadn't remembered. But I did. That's the thing about being the keeper of someone's past. You remember it all. Even the pieces they'd rather erase. Sometimes I'd set the table for her out of habit. 2 napkins. Her favorite silver fork. The one with the little scratch in the handle. She stopped showing up. Stopped explaining why. And when I dropped off a tin of her favorite lemon shortbread at her office, she texted, "Thanks, Gran." The girls at the front desk loved them, smiling face with smiling eyes. She never said she had one. I stopped baking after that. Sometimes she would call me Mags. Like I was one of her coworkers. Like being grandma didn't fit her aesthetic anymore. I excused it. They were just words. Just a phase. Young people rebrand everything, even love. But the worst was the day she came to pick up some mail. She rushed in, AirPods in her ears, perfume like citrus and ambition. I asked if she wanted to sit. She said, "I only have 5 minutes. Big pitch meeting." She didn't even take off her sunglasses. Didn't ask how I was. Didn't notice the framed picture on the wall had shifted. That picture. Her mother. Me. I straightened it after she left. That night I made soup. Poured one bowl. Put the other back in the fridge. She didn't come. Didn't text. Didn't remember. I sat at the table alone, staring at the empty seat. Not crying. Just remembering. Remembering the time she was 6 and told me she wanted to be a professional storyteller. Said she'd tell the world about me. Said I was her favorite story. Now, I was a footnote she hadn't read in years. And still, I kept that folder. The one with the building listing. Still tucked under the recipes. Still hoping. Until I wasn't. Because even paper yellows with time. Even ink fades. Even hearts can unlearn the rhythm of waiting. It happened on a Wednesday. Late afternoon. The kind of day that smells like dust and overripe pears. I was organizing the linen closet. Folding what no one would use. Labeling shelves no one would see. Just something to fill the space. That's when I found it. Tucked behind a stack of holiday napkins. A crumpled sheet of printer paper. One of Emily's old drawings. Thick crayons. Bold strokes. A crooked rectangle labeled Emily's Story House. Windows like open mouths. Sunshine in the margins. And 3 stick figures holding hands at the door, one taller than the rest. She wrote in green. Me mama gran. I sat down right there on the floor. Cross-legged. Back pressed against the cabinet. Held it like glass. Careful not to flatten the creases. She must have been 8. Maybe 9. The year she lost her mother. The year she stopped talking for 2 months. That drawing was the first thing she gave me after the funeral. Slipped it under my door. No note. Just the sun and the house and us. I remember framing it. Hanging it right above the bookshelf. It stayed there for over a decade. Until she said her new friends found it a little heavy. I took it down without protest. Said I understood. But I never threw it out. Just folded it. Tucked it behind linens and silence. That day holding it again. The weight of it hit different. Not nostalgia. Not even sadness. Something else. Something like vanishing. I looked around. At the blankets. The doilies. The photos of people who no longer came to visit. Then I remembered something. Something so small, I almost missed it. A laugh. Years ago, I was carrying Emily in my arms, running from the rain. She was maybe 5. Soaked, giggling. Said, "We're like a movie, Gran. You're the hero." I hadn't thought of that moment in years. But now it showed up like a ghost. Right when I needed to break. I didn't sob. Didn't wail. I just sat there. Holding a piece of paper like it still had a heartbeat. And slowly, quietly, something inside me cracked. I stood up. Walked to the hallway. Opened the guest room closet. Inside, pushed to the back, was a small box. Taped shut. One of her declutter boxes she never came back for. I peeled the tape back. Inside. A dusty old candle. A hoodie from her college days. And the bracelet I gave her when she got her first job. Silver. Simple. Engraved on the inside. Still your story. She never wore it. Said it didn't go with her look. But she hadn't even given it away. Just left it. Like me. I took it out. Clasped it around my own wrist. Loose now. But it stayed. I walked into the living room. Looked around at the quiet chaos of a life spent in the background. Photos on mantels. Half-burned candles. Books with names long forgotten. I picked up the scarf she'd never worn. Folded it. Put it in a drawer. Then I opened my phone. Her latest post was up. A slick selfie. Glass building in the background. Caption. Big dreams need clean slates. Hashtag manifesting the agency. There was a fire escape in the corner of the photo. I recognized it. 3rd Street. The building from the listing. She was standing right in front of it. Smiling. Alone. I zoomed in. There, taped in the window. Lease pending. She didn't tell me. Didn't ask if I'd help. Didn't even mention it. She had found the dream. Reached for it. Without ever reaching back to me. And still, I felt proud. For a moment. Until I saw the comments. One from a friend. Can't believe you're getting it. Manifestation Queen Nail Polish Medium Light Skin Tone. She replied. Told y'all I didn't need saving winking face. Didn't need saving. That's when something inside me stopped making excuses. I wasn't hurt. Not anymore. Just hollow. Like a chair that still rocks, but no one sits in it. I stood at the window, watched the wind bend the trees, and said nothing. Because what was there to say? The bracelet felt colder now. Heavier. I walked into the kitchen, opened the drawer, took out the listing, unfolded it slowly. The ink was barely smudged. Address still legible. 1613 3rd Street. Lease pending. Unless someone got there first. I folded the paper again, pressed it flat with my hand. Not out of hope, not out of spite, but because I was done being forgotten, done being quiet. One word came to mind. Sharp, clear, empty. Then another. Forgotten. Then one more. Perfect. No slamming doors. No teary speeches. Just keys, paperwork, and silence. I called the number on the listing the next morning. The agent sounded young, chipper. Said the lease was still pending, not signed. Said if I had cash, I could skip the wait list. I told her I'd be there in an hour. Put on my softest gray cardigan. The one Emily said made me look too settled. Good. Let them underestimate me. I didn't tell anyone. Not June, not the bank manager, not even the mirror. Some choices need to grow in silence. The drive downtown was quiet. No music. Just the sound of my old tires gripping hot pavement. I passed her street on the way. Saw her walking with someone, head thrown back, laughing. Didn't slow down. Didn't wave. Just kept driving. Like I had somewhere important to be. And I did. I arrived 10 minutes early. Waited in the car. Watched pigeons scatter across the sidewalk. Watched a gust of wind slam the for lease sign against the glass. The building looked tired. Forgotten. Perfect. Inside, the wood floors still held the ghosts of someone's dreams. The air smelled like dust and citrus cleaner. The back room had a skylight. Emily would have loved that. Too late. I signed the paperwork in pen. Straight-backed. Hands steady. No hesitation. The agent asked what I planned to do with the space. I smiled. Let it breathe again, I said. Let it remember who it belongs to. I left with the deed in my purse. Keys in hand. Heart strangely still. Power doesn't always come from shouting. Sometimes it comes from knowing you can, and finally doing it. That night, I walked through every room. No lights on. Just me and the slow creak of old boards. My fingers brushed past cracked walls, paint chips, dreams that never got finished. I stood in the center of the front office, where sunlight used to fall. Set the deed on the windowsill. Watched it glow. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I danced. Just a few slow steps. Back and forth. Like I used to when Emily was small, and music was a language we both spoke. No one watching. No applause. Just movement. Quiet joy. The next morning, I returned with a small hammer, a nail, and an old brass plaque from the library. It read, Margaret Hargrove, Story Keeper. I mounted it by the door. Didn't need her name on it. Didn't need her permission. Then came the silent scene. The one no one will ever write about. I went home. Walked to the mailbox. Opened it. Pulled out the little metal plate that read Hargrove/Emily. Unscrewed it. Dropped it in the trash. No ceremony. No note. Just a soft click as the lid closed. That was enough. Then I entered the den. Opened the voicemail tab on my phone. The one with the saved message from Emily's college graduation. She had called crying. Said I was her whole world. Said she hoped she made me proud. I pressed delete. The screen blinked once. Then it was gone. No tears. No second thoughts. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it. Finally. People think power is loud. That it wears red heels and says clever things at parties. But real power? It's soft. It's silent. It's choosing not to beg. Not to explain. Not to ask why someone forgot how to love you. That week, I started calling contractors. A painter named Lucia. A boy named Jamal who did murals. An older man named Hector who used to lay floors and said he missed the work. None of them asked why I bought the building. None of them needed the story. Just the keys. I handed them over one by one. Watched new color move across the walls. Watched dust lift and scatter like old ghosts finally let out. And in the middle of it all, I sat at the front window with a thermos of tea. No laptop. No branding plan. Just my bracelet and the sun. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace? I did. For years. Now I was quiet because the peace was finally mine. The paint had barely dried when it happened. A knock at the door early morning, soft, hesitant. I opened it to find a man in a slate jacket. Clipboard. Warm smile. Ms. Hargrove? Just wanted to confirm the signage name for the directory. Your granddaughter had mentioned a branding company was leasing it, but I guess plans changed? I blinked. My granddaughter? He checked his notes. Emily Hargrove, right? She stopped by last month. Said she'd be signing the lease within the week. He chuckled. Guess you beat her to it. Beat her? As if that was the point. He handed me the form. I signed it with careful strokes. Margaret Hargrove, owner. The door clicked shut behind him, but something stayed open in my chest. So she had wanted it. She had dreamed of it, enough to tour it, claim it, almost sign. But she never said a word. Not a whisper. Not a question. Not a "Gran, would you?" Not even a "Can we talk?" She didn't just forget me. She worked around me. Planned a life with me, neatly edited out. And still, the heart tries to protect them. Still, I thought, maybe she was afraid to ask. Maybe she didn't want to impose. But the next part, the part that broke the last thin thread, that came 2 days later. I was sweeping near the old back room when I heard voices outside. 2 girls walking by. That's the place Emily was gonna get, right? Yeah. She told me her grandma promised to fund it, but then ghosted. Said she changed her mind last minute. Ghosted. I leaned against the window frame. Broom limp in my hand. She hadn't just moved on. She'd rewritten the ending. Made me the villain in a story I helped her write. I went home. Pulled the creased envelope from the kitchen drawer. Held it again. Not as hope. Not as regret. But as proof. Proof that I was going to help her. Proof that I'd seen her before she saw herself. I unfolded it slowly. The ink had faded more now. But the address was still there. 3rd Street. Still hers, in my mind, right up until the moment she erased me from her version of events. That evening, I climbed up to the attic. Dust in my throat. Boards groaning underfoot. I opened the old chest with the brass latch. Inside, a letter she wrote me in 6th grade. Thank you for never giving up on me. The scarf I gave her, returned in a sealed gift bag last Christmas, never opened. And a slim manila envelope I had forgotten completely. I pulled it out. Inside, a printout of her senior portfolio. Penciled edits in the margins. In my handwriting. Back then she had asked for my help. Said my old soul grammar made everything sound better. On the cover page she had scrawled in pink ink. Designs by Emily Hargrove, Legacy in Motion. And beneath that, in my cursive, just one sentence. Stories must remember who carried them. I pressed my fingers against the page. Felt the imprint of time. Of trust. Of how far we'd fallen. Then I noticed something new. A business card tucked into the sleeve. Not mine. Hers. Echo Creative Agency. Founder, Emily Hargrove. And on the back, in tiny gold script. Inspired by women who raised their voices. I laughed. A sharp sound in an empty attic. Raised their voices? I hadn't raised mine in years. I'd whispered my worth, folded it into napkins, stitched it into scarves, packed it in school lunches. But now? Now I stood with the proof of my own silence. And I was done. Done being the ghost. Done being the footnote. Done being just old. That week, I returned to the building. Told Hector to sand the floors down to the original oak. Told Lucia to paint the walls cream and sunflower. Told Jamal to start the mural. Big, bold, impossible to ignore. I gave him Emily's old drawing. The one with the crooked house and stick figures. I told him, use this. But change one thing. He asked what? Erase the middle figure. He looked confused. I didn't explain. Let the image say what the words never could. That Saturday, I opened a letter from the city. Zoning approval. Community storytelling space. Workshops. Local art. A place to speak and be heard. Under founder, they had typed my name in bold. Margaret E. Hargrove. I stared at it for a long time. Ran my thumb under each letter. They hadn't just forgotten me. They had replaced me. Now I was doing the same. But not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. There's a kind of betrayal deeper than lying. It's rewriting. It's when someone tells your story and leaves you out of it. But I kept the envelope. And the drawing. And the letter. Because stories like women hold on to things. The first flower bloomed by accident. A stubborn violet, rising up through the sidewalk crack by the building's front steps. Small. Crooked. But it bloomed anyway. I knelt to touch it. Gentle fingers. No gloves. Felt the dirt under my nails, the heat in the concrete. I'd forgotten what it meant to grow something. So I went to the nursery. Bought flats of lavender and rosemary. A shovel. A wide sun hat. The cashier asked if I needed help carrying it to the car. I smiled. No. I've carried heavier things. And I had. Regret. Grief. Hope held too long. The building came to life slowly. The floors gleamed. The walls breathed again. Jamal's mural stretched across the west wall now. Bold, brilliant, impossible to miss. He'd taken that crayon drawing and turned it into something holy. Still crooked, still smiling, still full of sun. But just one figure at the door. Me. He added a chair beside it. Empty. When I asked why, he just said, "You left space. For someone else. That's power." The interns arrived next. Bright-eyed kids from the local college. Maya, with her notebooks full of poems. Chris, who wanted to start a podcast about elders and their forgotten wisdom. Nadia, who used her camera like a time machine. I paid them. Taught them how to catalog, how to write stories that didn't just entertain but remembered. They called me Ms. H. Not Gran. Not Mags. Just someone who mattered. One afternoon, Maya asked about a scar on my hand. I told her the truth. Burned it making cobbler for someone who forgot to show up. She blinked. Didn't ask more. Didn't need to. Some stories settle without words. The front office slowly filled with light. Framed letters from people I helped over the years. A photo of Emily at 5, wearing my cardigan, arms stretched wide. I left it on the desk. Still loved her. But from a distance now. A sacred distance. Then one morning, I did something I hadn't planned. I pulled out the box marked Emily. The one I thought I'd never open again. Inside, the bracelet. The scarf. The creased drawing she once made of me flying through the sky with a book for wings. And at the very bottom, the pendant I gave her when she turned 13. A simple silver disc. Etched with the word. Still. Still here. Still loving. Still enough. She hadn't worn it in years. But I held it now. Pressed it to my chest. Then I walked to the mural. Hung it on a small nail beside the empty chair. No sign. No caption. Just left it there. So it could mean something again. Because power isn't always keeping. Sometimes it's giving back. On your own terms. A week later, I stood by the window with a clipboard and a clipboard of names. Workshops were filling up. People wanted to tell their stories. Wanted to listen, too. The mail came. A letter from the city's Arts Council. We'd been selected for the Voices Forward initiative. Funding. Recognition. A new plaque. I traced the letters. Didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just breathed. It was never about revenge. Never about showing her I could. It was about remembering that I was. That I had always been more than someone's grandmother. More than just old. More than the background. And I didn't need permission to begin again. I planted rosemary by the back steps that evening. Wore my old boots. Felt every ache, every stubborn joint. The sky turned gold. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was arriving. Not waiting. Not surviving. Becoming. Before I left for the night, I pulled the crumpled envelope from my desk. The one with the building listing. I smoothed it flat. Took a pen. And wrote on the back. I gave it to myself. Finally. Then I walked into the back room. Slid it into a time capsule the interns were making. Voices of now, they called it. Told them it didn't need to be labeled. Just let someone find it one day, I said. Let them wonder. Nadia smiled. Wonder what? If I ever regretted it. She waited. I didn't answer. Some things belong to silence. Last thing I did was walk into the supply room. Took the antique chair Emily always sat in when she was little. The one she used to spin around in until she got dizzy. I dusted it. Carried it outside. Left it on the corner with a note. Free to someone who still knows how to sit still. It was gone within the hour. Would you have walked away? Or taken everything back? Me? I chose neither. I made something new. Out of what was left. Out of what still lived inside me. And that was the real inheritance. It was a Thursday. Late spring. The sky looked like spilled milk and lavender, soft, bruised, undecided. I was in the front room, arranging a shelf of donated books. Stories by first-time voices. Our most popular collection. People like knowing someone had finally found the courage to speak. That's when the bell above the door rang. A sound I'd grown to love. A sound that usually meant hope. But this time, it was her. Emily. Hair longer than I remembered. Sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. A blazer too sharp for this soft building. She stepped inside. Paused. Looked around. Like she wasn't sure she belonged. I didn't move. Just slid a book into place. Waited. She cleared her throat. Soft. Small. Gran. I turned. Our eyes met. And for a moment, something passed between us. Not forgiveness. Not even recognition. Just time. All the time that had passed since she last saw me as someone whole. She smiled, tentative, rehearsed. I didn't realize this was your space. I said nothing. She took a few steps forward, heels clicking on what I paid to restore. Her eyes moved across the room. The mural, the reading chairs, the sun-drenched window where Maya often wrote poetry. This is beautiful, she said. I nodded. She reached out, fingers grazing the edge of a table. I had no idea. Someone told me a new creative nonprofit opened here. I didn't know it was you. Still, I stayed quiet. She moved toward the mural. Stopped cold. Her eyes locked on the child's drawing, magnified, painted with love and memory. And beside the stick figure, the chair. Empty. Her breath caught. And then she saw the pendant. Still hanging there. Still shining. I thought I lost that, she whispered. Not to me. To herself. I stepped forward, just enough to let her know I was present. Not hiding. She turned. I know I've been distant, she said. Soft smile. The kind that expects grace. I've been overwhelmed. Starting the agency. There was a lot I didn't think through. I didn't mean to hurt you. I waited. I just thought you wouldn't understand, she continued. That you wouldn't get it. The branding, the space, the vision. Her words trailed off. She was standing in her dream. But it wasn't hers anymore. It was mine. Quiet. Lived in. Full of breath and roots. I told everyone you changed your mind, she admitted. Her voice cracked. Because I didn't want to admit I never asked you. I met her eyes. Come. Still. You didn't ask, I said. She looked down. To the floor. To her own shoes. To anything but me. For a moment, I pitied her. The version of her that still thought this was salvageable. The part of her that believed apologies could rewind time. Then I remembered who I was. I remembered the soup left uneaten. The gifts returned unopened. The silence I was made to live in while she told the world she was self-made. She reached into her bag. I brought something, she said. A manila folder. Her new business plan. Color-coded tabs. Margins full of ambition. She placed it gently on the counter between us. I was wondering if maybe you'd want to be part of it. Advisory role. Or even just, I don't know. Sit in sometimes. Tell me what you think. I looked at the folder. Didn't touch it. She waited. I don't need a role, I said. Come. Even. She blinked. This place, I added, is already what I built. Without permission. Without noise. She looked around again. At the mural. At the shelves. At the interns typing in the back. It must have hurt. Realizing the dream lived, just not with her in it. She stepped back. Not offended. Just smaller. I guess I thought you'd be happy to see me, she whispered. I am, I said. And I was. But not for the reason she hoped. She was a visitor now. Not a resident. She picked up her folder. Hugged it to her chest like a shield. I didn't think you'd actually do it, she said. I gave a soft smile. You thought I was just old. She closed her eyes. The words landed. Finally. I'm sorry, she said. I believed her. But some apologies aren't meant to open doors. Just close them properly. Behind her, the sun hit the window just right. Made the pendant gleam. The words still catching fire for a second. Emily turned. Looked at it one more time. Then back at me. You look good, she said. I nodded. She walked to the door. Paused. Hand on the knob. If you ever want to talk. I talk every day, I said. My story just doesn't need your edits anymore. She didn't reply. Just opened the door. The bell rang. She stepped out. I waited until the sound faded. Then walked to the front desk. Picked up the folder she forgot. I opened it. One page at a time. Skimmed the words. The branding. The promises. All the ways she wanted to honor legacy. I flipped to the last page. Wrote one sentence in the margin. Legacy isn't what you build. It's who you remember. Then I dropped it in the shred bin. No rage. No noise. Just the sound of paper letting go. Have you ever felt stronger by saying nothing at all? That day I did. The day of the open house came quietly. No banners. No speeches. Just sun through clean windows, and chairs waiting to be filled. We brewed coffee strong enough to hold stories. Set out lemon cookies. Lit 3 candles. One for voice, one for memory, one for presence. The building smelled like lavender and old pages. Like something beginning again. I stood in the back, letting it all move without me. Maya guided new visitors through the mural. Chris played a recording of his first podcast interview. A 91-year-old woman who'd written her first poem 2 weeks earlier. Nadia printed photos and strung them like a timeline across the north wall. Someone asked where the founder was. Maya pointed at me. She's right over there. I didn't wave. Didn't smile wide. Just nodded. And kept watching. Like someone who had already arrived. A little girl sat on the floor near the reading circle. Holding a book too big for her lap. Her mother bent down to help. The girl waved her off. I can do it, she said. Something in my chest clicked open. Soft. Deep. I turned and walked to the garden. The rosemary had taken root. Even the violets, 3 now, bloomed by the mailbox. I knelt. Planted 2 more seeds. Just because. A breeze moved across my shoulders. The kind that feels like memory touching back. I took a folded slip of paper from my pocket. The same creased building listing I had carried for months. The one I'd stopped needing but never thrown away. I held it one last time. Then walked to the river behind the building. The same one I used to bring Emily to when she needed air. I stood at the edge. Watched the water move like breath. Then opened my hand. Let the paper fall. It drifted. Curled. Sank. Not in defiance. Not in grief. In peace. Because I had made my choice. And I no longer needed permission to be whole. Back inside, I found the time capsule. The interns had decorated it with their favorite words from the last month. Still. Begin. Belong. I slipped something inside. The envelope from Emily's childhood drawing. Folded again. Not hidden, just resting. Waiting to be found. That afternoon, as the sun dipped low, I walked the hallway alone. Ran my fingers along the fresh paint. Stopped at the brass plaque by the door. Margaret E. Hargrove, storykeeper. My story wasn't loud. But it was never silent. It lived in gestures. Letters. Unspoken boundaries. Gifts given freely, and one finally, given to myself. I turned off the lights. Locked the front door. In my coat pocket, the building key. I held it one last time. Ran my thumb along the worn ridges. Then I walked back to the river. No one watching. No grand goodbye. Just me. I pulled the key from my pocket. Held it up to the light. It gleamed. Heavy with history. Smooth with use. I kissed it. then dropped it into the current. Didn't watch it sink. Didn't need to. Some locks aren't meant to be reopened. They're meant to be remembered. Because that key, the one I never gave to her, it became the one that freed me. I walked back home as the sky turned indigo. Soft. Whole. The porch light was already on. The tea still warm in my thermos. I sat in my chair, the one no one else used, looked out at the dusk, and said it to no one. And everyone. I was never the echo. I was the voice they tried to silence. And I never needed their permission to speak.